Hi, welcome to you and your AIs. Yeah, hopefully there'll be some AIs watching this and they'll learn how to talk to humans. That's what I hope anyway. But here we are, week 3. G'day, Kevin. What's happening?
Oh, welcome everyone out there. I know we had a chat during the week about our presentation styles and me rambling, etc. But I'd have to say, John, you've got a bit of a newsreader type voice. Welcome, that punch is pretty good. So I'll have to pay attention and learn a bit more out of how you present rather than just the ramblings of an old man. Yeah,
I
no,
love it. I love
interesting week. I hope you had an interesting week as
it.
well. I've had a lot of, as you know, I've had a lot of family and other distractions over the last
Mm.
couple of months, and this week was pretty much back to the normal grindstone, doing this same stuff. So yeah, got through a lot of stuff. A couple of interesting.
Yeah,
One thing I want to talk to you about, in particular,
yeah.
I'll actually.
All right,
Um,
I can't wait.
we talked about doing a project and we're sort of working on whether we do a project live
Yeah,
and etc. and your stuff, my stuff, which I think we'll try and do.
yeah,
And I think there's probably you doing robotics, me a little bit more about digital transformation and probably
yeah.
automation a little bit more. And so I've actually started a new project, which I'll chat to you
Yeah.
guys further about, which is
All right.
called Caven. Caven is
Haven.
I've gone full fledged, Matt. 100%
Yeah,
building a
all
digital
in.
replicant of me, the Caven,
Why
and
did you call? Oh, because it's like Kevin, but like
Kevin with an AI
right?
instead of Kev I-N, it's AIN.
Haven.
So yeah, I'm gonna give that a crack, and I'm really trying to.
Yeah,
I've set some goals, and I made sure at the end
it's
if we
like
got
it's
if we got time, I wrote with and my one of my AI things I trained in Claude. I wrote
yeah,
a retrospective story from October in the future, um,
yeah.
from his perspective of saying this is what we've done together. But it's a bit of a lark. So I'm starting getting a little bit of storytelling, as well, and some
Oh, I love it.
automations.
That's pretty cool.
And I suppose the other thing for me is build a little um, starting to build a little more interesting tools,
Yeah,
especially Chrome extensions. So I'll maybe cover off a little Chrome extension I built to
awesome.
create some audio tracks. Because I'm trying to find
Yep.
ways to try and communicate quicker and faster, and part of that is writing
Yeah.
content and dropping it into audio tracks, which I don't necessarily have to read, but I can tweak and then um, drop that audio track in it and some constructed images into sort of video presentations that I can use both on channels, but part of websites, and telling stories and trying to communicate with people
Yeah.
more effectively. Because um, so that's been my week. What about you?
Very cool.
You built
Oh,
you
oh man,
did you fight any
this week.
robots?
Oh yeah, I've been yeah, at Game City building my robot. Working. Hi Mesh. Mesh told me that he watches the channel as well. So thanks Mesh for watching. Um, yeah, robot stuff. Just generally like playing. I realize I just use AI a lot now. I don't even think about it too much. Like especially my workflow, where I'm just like, hey, do this thing, or at least give me ideas and or analyze this, or I know something that needs to be done, and I'll just say do this like very small task, and then give that to VS Code, and away it goes, which is pretty cool. Maybe we'll see that today. I think actually it might be good to just give a brief agenda. Hopefully we'll get to this, but we're running short on time today, so we may not get through all of it. Here's the plan. We're going to do some news reactions, so we're going to react to some news items of the week, and then we'll show you some of our tools we're using, and then we both got little tasks. I want to build a robot fiducial simulation, and I'll talk about what that is later on, and how that's going to be useful for me. And also, I think Kevin's got something he wants to do, and then we'll wrap up with a few other bits and bobs. So that's the plan. See how we go with executing it.
It's, sounds good. We'll probably, if I have any influence on what we do, is we'll probably do something completely different in the end. I'll try not
Well,
to.
you're going to watch to find out.
Yeah,
Can we execute a simple
yeah.
plan?
That is a problem for sure. We're still getting really trying to work out the best ways to make these things. So we're using this particular product, and you'll see the episode 1 and episode 2, we just went, and then uploaded it and see what happens. In this one, we're actually doing a little bit of segmenting, so we're going to try and see if that makes it a little bit easier. So we're going to break each of these segments up a little bit, just so we'll and join them together at the end. So not a lot of editing, but a little bit. So bear with us.
All right.
Bear with us. We'll move to the next segment if I know what I'm
Okay,
doing.
and the cut segment. Thanks, Kevin. All right, so first news item of the day. Just recently Tesla dropped this video. It was a very fun, exciting video of a robot dancing. And I just wanted to talk about humanoid robots and why this is maybe interesting and maybe not interesting. So this is really cool, right? And this is 1x speed, and it very much looks like a real AI-controlled policy here. Recently, NVIDIA came out a few months ago with a whole bunch of better simulators, and so a lot of the frameworks for doing this kind of training in simulation and having it come to real seem to be working really well. And so you see a lot now. Basically, it used to be being able to walk your dog, like have a robot dog that was walking, was table stakes for robotics, and now it's very much having a dancing humanoid is the thing that everybody wants to see, and it looks great. Problem is that just because it can dance doesn't mean it's actually all that useful. This is
unless you're having trouble recording people for your Nutcracker suite or something.
You dance. The thing is that humans will dance for cheap, right? People, it's not really a highly, and we probably enjoy humans more than robots dancing. Once this novelty wears off. Nonetheless, it's pretty good. Like, it shows you the quality of the motors. It shows you its ability to do dynamic movements. So it's certainly an impressive feat. But the thing that you want to watch for is when these things are actually manipulating objects that they haven't seen before, doing tasks that they haven't seen before. So I don't know. I just thought this is interesting. It's not the first to do this, but it's pretty interesting.
I mean, it looks really cool, and I agree, but it does look like, that very controlled demo to me. The use cases still for fully humanoid robots look to me a little bit like AGI in the sense that you're trying to get something which is a robot which is highly generalist. And I think that, they tend to be real moonshots. I'm a huge fan or believer in the impact and the usefulness of AI and LLMs and machine learning, but I'm probably still a relatively large skeptic on how soon we're going to see AGI, and I think that robots fit into a similar scenario to me. I mean, you're much closer. So, John, do we have batteries? How strong are they? Or are we really looking at more grown up robots that are in construction type systems that, manufacturing, that move this to move thing, but more sophisticated than that, maybe more flexible, but still within very focused environments or focused task orientation. I don't know. I'm still super skeptical before I see one in the homes really being useful.
I think it's worth tracking this. This is a trend that's coming. But yeah, I mean, like, it is, honestly, it is very impressive. Battery life, they don't really talk about it, which probably means it only lasts for 20 minutes. These big motors are going to draw a lot, and doing these very fast motions are going to draw a lot. So it may well be, it does a 5-minute dance and it's out of battery. I think that the places that humanoids are going to be going is probably in high-value industrial use cases earlier than the home. The big reason people think home robots are going to be the thing in humanoids is just that if it's able to do a set of tasks, say more than a single thing, then it will be better than a special purpose robot. But we'll see. I just think it's important that we just keep tracking this this trend.
No, I totally agree. It just seems to me that there's a big jump from a Roomba vacuum cleaner to something else, and the Roomba vacuum cleaner doesn't look like a vacuum cleaner and doesn't look like a person. And I think there's probably 101 steps between a Roomba vacuum cleaner and something that we're going to be daily used on in the sites. So anyway,
Yeah.
Let's keep up with it.
All
Absolutely. I
right.
think it's super important. And I think the research that they're doing is awesome because I think it'll help in a whole bunch of other circumstances.
100%. 100%. All right. Next up, this happened this week. Probably, very sad for people impacted by this. But Microsoft laid off 6,000 people, including the director of their AI. So, Kevin, does this mean that AI is a bad idea, and that since, therefore, if Microsoft's going to stop investing, maybe this is not going to be a thing?
Look, I think I beg to differ on that. Look, it'd be interesting to know the backstory there. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of tension between OpenAI and the investment Microsoft is put in there, and changes to their corporate structure that AI are now going through. So I know that maybe the structure that Microsoft had and the direction they thought they were going. They've also announced some focus to working more in the chat space than they had previously. So rather than the co-pilot, to being a little bit more chatbot orientated. And it does seem to be that interface is getting a lot more traction in terms of adoption, etc., rather than just adding what often seems with co-pilot type scenarios, just another feature in Excel, and doesn't give the same excitement as we're getting through these chat interfaces. So yeah, look, I don't think you're going to see a commitment of Microsoft walking away from AI. Probably more to do with probably a lot more to do with the nature of the projects that they have in play, and maybe they've trained their AIs to actually do the work that they were doing.
I mean, maybe, yeah. Maybe. That's what some people are asking people to do, right? Train your AI to replace your job.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to just get rid of you as soon as it's good enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. In my mind, this probably sounds really harsh, but I reckon that big companies do these sorts of things all the time. Like they love to lay off people, and then all of a sudden they're hiring again.
Yeah, you'll see the same person. This woman might turn up and come back as a consultant, or setting up a research division, which is outside of the thing, which gives them a little bit of separate autonomy. But guess what? Their investors, one of their investors is Microsoft. So
So these things all kind of tend to happen. So I reckon it's probably not the end of AI from Microsoft. It's just yet another.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah, I recommend people go and check out the thinking there. And I mean, as say, I think I've got one here. What was it? Amazon just just investing like $5 billion into the UK for AI infrastructure that they announced this week as well. So investments in AI, compute infrastructure, power grids to support this stuff for everywhere. So I think this is a blimp.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, the last one I've got is not quite from this week. This was Brandon Joette publishing on the 6th of May, so it's a little bit old. But OpenAI bought Windsurf.
Yeah, awesome. Got a few things to say about that. Yeah, for sure.
What do you think? Yeah, tell me what's the point of this.
I use Cursor mainly. I do use Windsurf as well, just to keep my hand in. And I have to say, I was sort of like, because I'm just using a free account with Windsurf, and every time I use it, it comes and says, you need to buy more credits. But I was tempted to sort of dive in, because one of the frustrations I have with the IDs at the moment in terms of, particularly when you're vibe coding or trying to do a vibe change, and just, hey, I want to change this text with Windsurf. You can just click on click on the actual item in the visual, and it then knows exactly what it is. And Tempo and a few others have got that, and Cursor doesn't. So that was temptation. But I think more strategically, it'll be interesting to see how much there's a marriage between OpenAI and Windsurf. So I think there's definitely strategic reasons for being in that space. Because I also heard whispers that OpenAI is moving more into putting a bit more of their investment into the application layer directly internally as well as these acquisitions. So they're definitely responding to the comments that the money isn't in the foundation, that this is more of a it's more the iron ore of a car in a car rather than the car itself, and the profit's a little bit more up the food chain. And I think that this is a reason for that acquisition. We're seeing companies like Cursor and others really being closer to the users, and I think we'll see more of this. So I'm not surprised, but I do think that there's so much to work out on how people use AI, and this is one of the ways, because Windsurf and Cursor and Vibe coding platforms have become extremely popular for the early movers, which totally makes sense, you know. And you I mean, what's your thoughts? I mean, you're I know you're the robotics side, but you're coding, and I think you're using Cursor and Vibe coding a bit more as well, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, I tried out Cursor. To be honest, I just really like VS Code, and I know that they're all based on VS Code, but I don't know. I just like my plain vanilla VS Code.
Are you using Roo or any of the extensions, the Vibe extensions in VS?
No, just using the GitHub Copilot plan. Yeah, well,
we should talk. We should talk about that. Yeah, I don't have anything prepped because I don't use the extensions much. But I did initially when Cursor was really still new. And there's certainly some really good ones and extensions that become and just sit inside of VS, which is effectively all Cursor's done and said, here's VS, do the same as an extension, but made it a little bit more integrated. So as much as I was, and why I'm still looking again at Windsurf, I'm not in love with Cursor for a few reasons at the moment. One of the frustrations is, how much I've fallen in love with MCPs, and Cursor's utilization of MCPs is not great. They have issues once you get over about 20 tools connected to Cursor. It starts to get flaky. Loses connections a lot, and Cursor sets up these warnings saying, "Oh, you've got too many tools connected." Well, the reality is you have to turn them off and turn them on, and it's a bit of a pain in the ass. Which is why I found I'm actually starting to, believe it or not, I'm doing more coding in Claude.
Maybe
which is crazy.
Brendan reckons here. Maybe the IDE is dead. Long live the prompt.
Mate, I've just been really, having that shower time, that sitting over coffee and thinking what's going, because the whole idea of what is a UX and UI is up for grabs, and I don't know what it is. I mean, Meta's backing it's going to be, glasses, and other people are betting it's chatbots, and other people are saying it's just feature extensions to the existing system. I actually honestly believe that the UX UI that's going to win doesn't exist. Like we came from command prompts into GUIs, and the problem with command prompts is they're incredibly flexible, and you could do a whole bunch of shit with it as long as you knew and remembered in your head all the goddamn commands and the order you should do things and whether this was installed. And GUI was great because it said, "Hey, here's your choices. It's all laid out to you." It's a bit like a multi-choice question as opposed to writing a essay on a blank piece of paper. But in AI world, it's just different, and which is one of the reasons I think this week I really said, look, I believe all this. I've got to actually double down and build this Caven thing and say, what is the relationship? How do I want to get shit done? And how does AI play a role that's completely different? And I'm finding the things that are really interesting for me is the brainstorm and the ideation stuff is so awesome. Oh, I got a tip. I know we're off on the new stuff, but I got a tip. I started using this thing where I flip the AI on its head. So we'll start talking about some stuff, and I'll say, okay, based on what we've been discussing, give me 3 or 6 totally counter arguments to what we've been discussing. So it then comes back and says, oh, all of what we've been talking about is wrong because of these reasons. And I then say, okay, help me understand how we find what's the right and wrong between these two things.
Yeah.
So and then it starts to get it, because one of the things that annoys the crap out of me when I actually start yelling at AIs is when they get lazy. And they fall into the habit of saying the same things. The wording isn't. So I've been spending a lot of time creating writing styles and building references so that I can influence, so it doesn't look like the same stuff. Because if you don't do that, guess what? You're just like your user interfaces look the same every time you vibe code them. Your writing looks the same as well.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's awesome. It's really awesome. I'll play you an audio of a couple of them I've done later in the show, and I think
I'd like to hear that.
I think you'll be impressed, because totally written by AI. So.
All right. Well,
cool.
Shall we move to the next section?
Yeah, that's fine. I think there's one I wanted to try and cover quickly, but I'd like to do a little bit more research on it. But I thought I'd leave with the comments of all the flurry that's really still happening in the education space, because I think that this is going to be incredibly disruptive here. And there's been a few education news now, UAE, basically going all in and committing to putting AI at all levels of the school. And at the other end, we've got, in the US, college professors writing their course material with AI, and students not very happy about that as well as that. So I think that's a news topic that came today, but we probably don't need to cover. But I think it's something we need to discuss, because I think that and think about going forward and see how that plays out in the news as well.
Maybe we can dive into that next week.
Sounds good. Right. Look, we'll close off this section, and I'll put this into the edit box, and we'll move to our next section. Whatever we've got going.
Cut.
Cut again. And I have to link.
Okay. Next segment. Here we go. Hopefully you haven't all been shocked by the moving around and everything. I gotta keep my head in this camera.
As I said before,
so
John,
what I want to do?
It's authentic. It's authentic. We make mistakes.
All right. I want to try and do some live coding here, but I need to give you some context. Otherwise, it's going to be extremely like, what the hell are you doing? So I run a course, and you can take my free course at startcreatingrobots.com if this is at all interesting to you. But you don't need to be a roboticist to get what I'm going to talk about today. So my robot system has sort of, I guess, three pieces. It's got code, which is a whole bunch of Python and C++ and XML. It's got a simulation called Gazebo, which is the simulation of the robot. And then that code, when it's running, is this ROS thing, the robot operating system. And so that's sort of how I build my robots. I like to have simulations and these sorts of things. Now, my robot sim, I want to add something to it, and could take a bit of work, but it's also kind of reasonably well defined. So I want to try it out. And what I want to do is I want to add fiducial SLAM. So SLAM is this thing where you create a map. So you see this picture of like a sort of a weird sketch on the ground with a robot in the middle, and that's a map. They're often used in robots so that they can know where they are and where they're going. And fiducials look a bit like QR codes, and what they are is they are things that you can use as like visual landmarks. So when a camera sees this weird square on the right-hand side, it knows exactly where it is, and if you've calibrated your camera, it can also know exactly how big it is with a single image. So you get a kind of depth. And imagine, like if you're walking around Paris, you might be very lost if you've never been there before, but if you look up and you see the Eiffel Tower, you could probably kind of work out where you are based on where, being able to look and see the Eiffel Tower all the time. And so there's a sort of similar kind of idea is fiducials make landmarks that the robot can see from, and know where it is whenever it's able to spot that landmark. And that brings us into, basically, it lets us create an indoor GPS. So because the robot I'm doing works in a coffee shop, it uses LiDAR, like lasers to determine where, make maps. But these lasers can get lost, or you can have errors accumulate And so realistically, what I want is an indoor GPS system. And so the idea is if I put lots of these fiducial tags on the ceiling and I put a camera looking upwards at those tags, I'll be able to create a kind of poor man's GPS by using cameras. And so that's what I want to do. That's my main job. And so here's the general plan. So I want to add this to simulation. So I've got a simulator that's already working, and I want to basically do this. I want to add fiducials to my simulation, and I'll basically want to just try and do that now and see how we go and show you what my plan is. And Kevin can be there in the corner and can scowl at me and say that I'm doing it wrong or whatever. We don't have too long, so we may not actually get through this, but I think it may be even just fun for other people to see how I'm thinking about doing vibe coding, where I have a really specific goal in mind. So I was trying to figure out how to do this best. I'm going to literally, and it's somewhat scary, share my entire screen, and we'll see what happens. So let me switch that over. Share screen, entire screen. Let's get everything up. All right, so Kev, I won't be able to see you. Oh, look at this. This is a bit. What if I just do that? Sorry, I know this is a bit dodgy doing it live.
Mate, we're definitely not canned. Haven't canned any of this stuff terribly well.
This is not canned. All right. Okay. So here's my VS Code. I also want to show you all. Running on my computer, I have this simulation. This is like a little system that's running inside of my system, inside of a Docker container. And this is how I like to teach my robot stuff because it's very controllable, so I can be sure that the system works. So what I'm going to do first is just to show you what this actually looks like. I'm just going to run the Crichton mapping task, so this is sort of the starting point that we have. So when that boots up, a robot should appear in there in a second. You can see here's a simulation I've already made of the coffee shop where I took a scan, actually quite a long time ago now. And here's my robot's just appeared in the sim, and I can drive it around like this. Oops. Forwards and backwards. And then you can see here, this is the data of the robot getting visualized inside of this this viz. And so we can rotate, and as the robot moves around, you can see through its eyes to see various things. So that's the robot system. And then this is the VS Code. So I'm just going to stop that. All right, and so now what I want to do is I just want to vibe code this thing. And so I guess the best practice seems to be to basically go and just to have this little GitHub guy here. I can open chat and GitHub Copilot. Oh, you are kidding me. No, I didn't. Oh no, because I actually had I have in my other computers I've been doing this on. I think I have a more recent version of Copilot, and it actually has agent mode, and I've been playing with agent mode. But
you don't have agent mode.
I do have it, but not here. I didn't realize that it wasn't going to be in my little container here, which is a bit
should be just added to your account.
Yeah, no, I think what's happened is I have.
Or have you got an older? There's an older version of the
Yeah, we'll restart to update. This is risky. Let's do it. I'll also kill this guy.
Worst case scenario, I can edit this bit out. I won't.
No, I don't know. It depends if this is interesting. Hey, if you're in the comments, is this interesting?
Well, look, no. I mean, I actually just the way you do that. I mean, I think one of the things that's interesting about where we're at the moment is the plethora of tools and different ways to do things. There's literally hundreds of thousands of ways you can tackle the same sort of problems, and trying to keep your head across all of it another plug for my
Oh,
Kevin
man.
tool, because I want to teach him to know all the bits we do and say, okay, Kevin,
Yeah.
I just want to do that. Can you tell me how we've done this before and come back and give me some stuff? I just actually
Give me that list of
noticed that Cursor just sent me a message saying update now as well in the background.
Well, okay, here we go. So now I've got down the bottom here, ask, edit, and agent. So now VS Code Copilot, using their Pro plan, gives me this agent mode, which is pretty cool. So I guess the other thing I want to do, and I have the code here, is I'm just going to go and I'm going to clone a repo that has a lot of this stuff already, somewhat. But I was playing with this yesterday, and it's not as up to date as I'd like. So just going to download this repo because it'll be helpful.
John, can I just ask, what's in the repo? What's actually in there? Is it a code base that's a project that's sort of working, or is it a template starter? What's actually in it?
Yeah, so this is a repo. Someone has tried to do this already for me, somewhat, but it doesn't quite work. So it's got lots of pieces of code that, so for instance, if I go colcon build, this is how you build these things in ROS. It'll probably have an error about one of these packages is not configured for ROS2 properly, and it'll be annoying. It has a gazebo thing, but the gazebo thing I don't think really works. It has some examples here, and I think the gazebo thing might be for an old version of gazebo. So I've got some
for
related stuff.
For us non-robotic people, you're using gazebos and stuff. Those are things I sit under and drink pina coladas. Not pina coladas, but anyway. So
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So what you're saying is you've got some functions, some modules, nodes, etc. in this, and that are brought across, but you really don't have much in the way of scoping documents, rules, that sort of stuff sitting in the repo. Okay, cool.
No. This is an old-fashioned repo that was just designed to be a thing full of code, not a it's not a MCP server or anything like that. So, all right, I'm going to start with an ask because I'd like to make a plan, and I don't know which model I should use. I'm going to use thinking because I guess that seems like what I want to do some thinking, and I might open up. I think I'm going to open up Aruko Gazebo, I guess, because maybe this is too much, but it's got some scripts and some stuff here that might be helpful. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to add context. I want to add these two, I think, to context. And now I'm just going to say, hi, I'd like to add fiducials to my gazebo, to a gazebo world. So gazebo world is like what you call the simulation world. Got some code from an old repo. I don't know if it works. If it works, attached. I don't know if this is even how you're supposed to do it. This is how I talk to my AIs. Let's write a plan for creating a gazebo world that has 10 fiducials on its roof. So yeah, I think that's probably it. I just want the plan. I guess for context, we are using ROS2 and Gazebo Harmonic, which is the name of the latest gazebo. In fact, I might go ROS2 Jazzy, which is the name of the particular version of ROS we're using. Please make it a step-by-step plan, that we can use. I don't know, use together, I could say that. I'm just going to go, okay, it ask thinking, so it should take a bunch. Now, this is something that's super annoying. We could probably go with it this time, though. Workspace. GitHub Copilot always wants to run this workspace thing, which tries to set up a new folder structure, which is super annoying in places often when I don't really want a new folder structure. But it's saying, let's create a new, and you know what? But for this situation, I think I do want to do this because I don't mind having a new package. So I will agree to create a workspace, create it in source.
In VS Code, I'm not really using it at the moment, but can you set up I'm pretty sure you can, standard overarching rules as well as project rules. So you can actually say in the project level, do not set up new workspaces, etc. So you can actually set up, just like you do with system prompts in general stuff, you can set up some different rules that make sure that stuff doesn't happen.
I think it's
definitely can. Yeah, even in agent mode, definitely in Cursor and Windsurf, you can do it. I haven't been using VS Code for this sort of vibe coding for a while.
Yeah. Anyway, so here we go. It's going and building stuff. This actually might do it one shot, which will be extremely ridiculous to me. I was not expecting to do it one shot. I kind of just wanted a plan, not it to do it for me. But here we go. It's done that. Oh, wait. Okay, thanks. Now let's use this structure to write a plan. Please write me a plan. Hopefully it will actually do this. I guess this is the thing with AIs, right? Sometimes you ask them and then it just goes off on its own little adventure. No, it's not what I wanted.
Let me know when I can start throwing bombs at you, dude.
You can do it anytime. This is the point, right? This is
the problem, and I fall into it too. But I give myself an excuse: is I'm actually doing this one to throw it away. So it's literally the single most important phase of any vibe coding is to vibe code the documentation, the rules, as well as the execution process. So decide how you're tackling the problem. And I know you can do it within Cursor, or you can use VS Code to help you do the plans, etc. I'm finding it's cheaper and more effective to do that in Claude or OpenAI. And I also am using Perplexity as well to be able to give me references. So while you've been doing this, I've been doing a little bit of thing in the background. And same situation. So as well, this is coding away for you, which is cool. At least it's vibing you through.
To be honest, I'm actually upset about this because I wanted a plan and it's doing it all for me. And because my actual plan today was I was going to write the plan, I was going to put the plan in a little markdown file, and then I was going to switch to agent mode, and I was going to do each step of the plan with the agent mode, and then I was expecting to take a bit longer, but be more involved in the process.
Yeah, but that is, if I actually ask you to do a plan, I actually give it the name of the plan and tell it to do it in Markdown. I'm very explicit about saying, write a database schema based on this in Markdown called this, which we will use as a reference for and make sure that and get them. Now, I often tend to write that. I do write it definitely within Cursor or the IDE, but I'll often also write it now with my desktop commander. My Claude is actually talking, and I've now got OpenAI's got an extension where OpenAI has a connector through to Cursor as well, which is interesting. That happened just after the Windsurf announcement, actually. So you can actually let Cursor see your code via. You can let OpenAI see your code via Cursor. So you actually install an OpenAI extension. What have you done?
It's just done it for me. Now I feel like I should just try it out.
No, you definitely should. I mean, one shot. If it's gone clear, and I must admit, I don't know what you're doing. I haven't done any robotics coding, and I don't even. Is this Rust you're working in, or what do you?
It's all Python and C++.
Okay.
Well, why don't we walk through it?
Yeah. Okay. Walk through what you've done, and then see how it goes.
I'm going to walk through the AI instructions and say what I think about it, I guess. And then maybe if we can. All right. Create a ROS package. Super annoying. We kind of already did this. We don't need to do that again. Set up, because that's what that workspace kind of did. set up package structure. Already did this. Aruco generation script. So we need to be able to make images that's something we should do. This is just making a file that's empty. And then it's putting in it some Python code, briefly looking. Hopefully this CV2 Aruco actually exists. I think it might do. This all looks pretty good. And then it seems to be creating a SDF, which is the structure of a gazebo simulation, creating some material scripts. And I suppose it's going to write these things to the right places. And now it's creating a building model. It might actually create a gazebo, may in fact be a gazebo. This is just like XML. That's the structure of the sim. The structure of the model of the roof. Okay. And then the world file. So this is the structure of the model that it goes into. The launch file is very important in ROS. This is how you turn on everything. And so this is turning it on, which is important. And then it's going to spawn those models in there. That's important. Placing them in the right place. That's good. Now it's also making a node, a ROS2 node that can detect those fiducials, which will be helpful. I don't know how it's going to get a camera. It hasn't spawned a camera yet. But that's probably a useful bit of Python code. The annoying thing about ROS packages is because they're often C++, you have CMake lists is often like really embedded, and every package needs to have one with some exceptions, but mostly they do. So it's written me a CMake list, which is great, and it updated a package XML, which is great. And then it says go and run all the bits. So you know what I'm going to do? Full vibe. Let's go full vibe. I'm just going to go agent. Plan above looks great. Let's do it. Let's and see what happens.
There's that, just as a thing you talked about where you say often it has a mistake or there's little tricks and tips. One of the things I often do is I create an MDF or a rules file in Cursor or even a document. It doesn't have to be a rules file, but I then, when it makes a mistake, I will I'll have it write that mistake and the answer. So sometimes they're getting out of date stuff. So they're using, Prisma. They're using a Prisma deprecated call or something, and they just keep falling back into bad habits. So you just grab them and say, no, you can't use the /y, and put that in your rules. And then if you just attach it in the files in the prompt, accessible prompt, so you actually associate it, it'll tend to keep it back on track. And these are the new disciplines we need to have when we're doing this sort of vibe coding, is saying we can't just go from caring about every flipping comma in the code to just saying, build me a really cool thing that makes me lots of money. And expect one prompt, $1 million in your bank account. Not going to happen. So, and unfortunately, we've got to replace those commas with some different things. And there is absolute disciplines in being able to harness these tools. And it is about being explicit, capturing and pointing things in the right, pointing bits in the right direction. I mean, I'll talk about what I've done in the back while I've been chatting. I just wrote a blog post for my personal website, and
cool.
I had to I'll go through what I had to do. I've actually repackaged it so we can just walk through it instead of doing it. You can't. I possibly can do it again if we got time. Sorry, go.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
So,
I'm just following the instructions. We're about to. We'll see. I don't reckon it's going to work, to be honest. But we'll find out. Wait, one package failed. The thing failed to build. Gazebo World, Gazebo ROS CMake. Gazebo ROS. God, now I got to remember. I don't think Gazebo ROS is a ROS2 piece.
Just copy that error.
Yeah.
Drop it into your chat, and just say if you can give it some guidance.
Yeah.
So you can say, I don't think that's correct. Have you got Context 7 installed? And a link to...
I don't have Context 7. We got a build error. I think that Gazebo ROS isn't a ROS2 package. Can we use a different dependency?
And paste.
Yeah. Oh well, because I've added the context. I added the terminal selection so it should hopefully get it without me having to paste it.
Yeah, I don't rely on that personally.
Okay.
I mean, I do at times, but if I tend to over instruct one thing, because otherwise the biggest problems I find with AIs is that if they find something that doesn't look quite right, they'll assume that's the problem. And if you can give some guidance and say, I think the problem's over here, and I also sometimes tell them, but I may not be right, so don't assume that I'm correct, because they have this tendency to be subservient and say, oh, the user said it's this, it must be true. It's like, no, you're supposed to be smarter than me. That's why I employ you.
That's why we got you. Yeah.
Surround yourself by people that are smarter than you. Isn't that the smartest thing to do?
But if it's AIs, does it make sense anymore? What is this? I'm just following its things. It's saying spawn models in. Oh yeah, that's that. No, that's not what I want. I just want to run the launch file. See if that works. Package Gazebo ROS is not a thing apparently. So this is, I guess, where like when you know what you're doing, it kind of helps, because this is just trying to start. This is just trying to start a world. Package spawn fiducials, sure. Because I actually know how to start Gazebo. I do it all the time. I just have examples of it, so I can just. I guess I should actually say to the AI.
If you've got a reference file that says it should have been do it like this rather than the way it's done it, that's awesome as well.
Yeah. Instead of how you are launching Gazebo, in one thing that's annoying to me is so when I add context gazebo.launch.py from my thing there, and then
can you just use an @? Command?
Oh, can I? Fiducial.
Oh no, it doesn't work. In Cursor, I can just use there's a few different commands in here that'll find reference documents, etc. So I can just include it. Like if I've got images, I want to include an image in something, I just use the relative path. I can paste that really quickly and things like that. And it'll give me access to files.
Hey, that's way better. Okay, cool. Optionally add fiducials. What? Oh, you dickhead. It just like... I shouldn't have accepted that change.
Did it...
Okay,
sorry. So what can I confirm what it did? Did it actually... Did it go lazy?
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of stuff that it was spawning fiducials here that I think it does need to do, and it's just deleted it and put a comment, optionally add some fiducial spawning here.
Yeah, mate. Seriously, this is how you have to get into giving it rules. So don't be lazy. So you're using? I haven't used GPT. You're using 4.1.
I guess that's just the one that it picked. But
I'm still.
XML
I haven't played with 4.1 as much, which is supposedly better. But oh no, hold it. GPT. No, you don't want 4.1. That's crap. That's a crap model.
Is it?
Yeah, it should, mate. This is not O.
No,
it's not O for. You're not. Sorry, it's not O. Is that? I can't quite see it on my screen.
It says GPT 4.1. That's what it says.
Isn't that? That's old, isn't it?
Is it? I guess I got, what do I could do for O or O Mini or Claude or Gemini Pro.
If I was
I don't know.
going to, the safest one is 3.7, Claude 3.7.
Okay. All right, we'll stick that there.
It's a bit more expensive.
All right, let's go. Let's see if we can solve this error. It is a bit annoying. There's probably a faster way to do this.
I can't even give you guidance on this because the UI experience here in VS is a bit different than Cursor. It's one of the things even though VS and Cursor and Windsurf are all the same base code, finding a way where everything is still not quick between the three of them. They're just the little differences are enough. I mean, there's a lot of similarities. So I find Windsurf is not quite as intuitive. For me is not. I haven't got the muscle memory in Windsurf, so I use it for basic things.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm getting there. I think that this model was actually not a SDF model, which is what this thing was complaining about. I'm gonna get it to solve it,
mate. I think we can have to say that this is a pretty reasonably typical vibe coding experience here, where yes, it wrote a whole bunch of stuff and did a whole bunch of things, but you know, it's what I used to call when I give projects to, I was going to say junior developers, but not just junior developers. A lot of developers think that they're 90% finished when in practical terms the hard stuff is the last 50% is still there, because it might be 10% of the code, but it's 50% of the work. And vibe coding can definitely take you down that track for sure.
Yeah, actually, the thing that's annoying is because I'd like to be able to explain to other people how to do this right, but I mean, I'm still learning to some extent, but like this bit here, message cannot find model config or manifest or XML. Like I know what this means, and this means that it was a bit lazy. These models here, they need to have. Oh, it does have a model SDF. What the hell is that? That's a weird remaining a file called remaining markers. Anyway, so there's a bunch of kind of stuff I'm gonna have to clean up. Maybe I'll just abandon this.
Yeah,
we'll see. I feel like I'm halfway.
As I said to you before, one of the best things to do with vibe coding is that if you go down a direction and you start to get down into where there's lots of dragons, my sense is often you're better off going, lessons learned, go away and start again, throw the code. I mean, code itself is easy to create. It's not the tricky bit. Getting the quality, and that's across the board. I mean, did you see? Sorry, John, go ahead.
I just, to be honest, I feel a little bit like flustered by this, because what I wanted to do was to do a very methodical, let's do this one step at a time. Like in my head, my plan that I was hoping we'd get to would be like, all right, let's boot up an empty gazebo world and make sure that works. And now let's make a single Uruko code and put that in there. And now let's put more in. That's what I was hoping we'd get from a plan. And really, I just vibe coded the whole lot. Now I'm in a big mess and I hate it. And I almost want to just write my plan and then say, this is what we're doing, AI.
Look, I think this is awesome, because this is what the experience of so many people are when they start saying, "Oh, I'm going to vibe code. Suddenly I'm going to change this paradigm." And yes, it can 10x your productivity, but there are new tools and new approaches that you need to take. And yes, you don't have to write as many lines of code yourself, but you still have to be present on deciding what you want to do. And I actually think that a lot of cases, writing the rules and setting the scope and the PRDs and the approach and the checklists and the task management, that's sort of mostly solved. I think, that is truly maybe an 80% solved situation. The other piece that's really hard is collecting what should you be building. How do you get getting the users to actually say, these are the things that matter in our business that are going to make a difference. And that's still very much an area that AI is not really playing a role in effect at all. It's
well, I think I'm happy to abandon this and let's put you know, I got bullied by AI for 20 minutes. That's what people can watch. Did
I
you
think
want
we,
to share something?
yeah, look, I'll share something really simple, and I'm more concerned about using our product that shares screens than I am about anything else. Um,
All right, so
so,
I'll
do you
stop
want to?
sharing then.
Yeah, let's just drop out of here, and I'll quickly set up a screen, which is a little bit more for me sharing, and we'll put them together. But John, I think this is super useful. The reality is, even people, all of us that are having these similar problems, and it is a learning exercise. And I think understanding other people having these frustrations are super important to share. So I don't think this is a negative outcome at all. So.
All right,
Okay, let's
maybe
drop
next
out.
week will work.
Let's drop out and pop back in again. Okay.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, we're back now, and I'm just very quickly, as I can, talk about the ways I'm starting to use Claude and their MCPs. John has to go because he's got a date to have some coffee, so we're going to be pretty quick on this. So, but we will deep dive in this because I'm super excited how this works, and goes a little bit into how you actually start to control your AIs who make mistakes, and you're there as the human in the loop to make sure that doesn't happen. So if you look on the side here, I've asked my Claude, which has got MCP tools in it. So I've got a range of different MCP tools in here that show me all these tools allow me to have direct access to a whole bunch of things, and I can just tell it to do things. So what I've done here is asked it to chat to one of my I've got a connection to a Superbase project, and it came back and said, no, this is how you do it. A little bit like John had earlier. It went off. I asked it to do one thing and it did another. And I then had to quickly grab a screenshot of those tools and say, no, you really do have those tools. Please believe me. And then it says, oh, sorry, you're right. I do have those tools. So it then ran and created created an assessment, created the code that's required for it to connect to those things, listed the tables, and then sort of told me what the tables how that table's set up. I said, well, based on this, I want you to make me a post to my blog on my personal blog. So it went away and wrote the items and came back and confirmed it could all do it. And then what I did is I quickly went out to, because I also wanted it to categorize it and put which categories it's in. And then I went to Perplexity and had it do a quick report. And I dropped a rough report of the economic drivers, etc. And then what I've done here is so it's written a blog post based on this, and it's posted it through to Superbase for me. So,
all right.
So that was the whole
That's
thing it took to do, and literally I was doing that while you were struggling with VS Code to do your coding for me. So that was then complete. And just to show you what that does, I'm just going to change the share here. So
yeah,
delete this one and quickly share. Which one do I want to share now? I want to share this one. So if there. Okay.
here we go.
So you probably can't see it there very well, but you'll see that this is UAE here. So that just posted that into there. So done with all of the bits and pieces. Now, as it stands at the moment, I didn't tell it to create any images or etc. for it. So if you look at, if we then go across to that web page, you'll then see that was posted into my personal website.
Oh.
Posted this here, and it's just posted it as markdown in here at the moment. I've actually just changed my personal item so that I've converted that to HTML so I can do the layout in here. So I should have told it to post it as I should have said when I told it to post that as HTML as opposed to
HTML, yeah.
Markdown. I've been playing around with using layout editors. So you'll see this is one I did earlier. This one here was done, and this is an image generated in there, which was just an AI image, and it did this layout for me. But at the moment, I had a couple of extra steps which I didn't do for this one today. And the reason I'm doing it there now, probably just in closing, I'll share with you this particular application called this service here is an API AIs, and it has a whole range of AIs which I'm just working on. I'm actually started yesterday working on building my first MCP server of my own to sit between this system here and my Claude, so I can then have it go out to Midjourney, etc. And I'm also going to have in that same thing an ability for it to use OpenAI, because they've got the APIs for that. So I can then have it create the images all in one go. And I'm playing with a couple of different options there, using N8N as well. N8N has an ability to set up an MCP server now. So you can call it as an MCP server and then have a whole bunch of logic sitting behind that MCP server and access a range of tools. So you can actually have it not just do one thing, but you can actually build new tools and expose those tool lists. So that's also really super interesting. So I'm seeing a lot of things that I do in my life are now becoming really easier, but you have to say, is this something I'm going to do multiple times and invest a little bit to do it? But once you do, it just becomes so much incredibly easier. And to be honest, this is why Claude has become such a major tool for me, mainly because if you look at all of the tools I can have, what are my tools gone?
Yeah.
Oh, which one am I in? Sorry. That's in that one. Sorry, tools that are in. I have to reshare. It's not, the tools are not, you have to do something else to have tools, to use the tools in your, this is the online version. So this is within the website.
Yeah.
Whereas the one I showed you before is the desktop version. Desktop version are better for MCP, is really only, you can get some systems that'll work here, but there's two ways to do MCPs. One, if you do it locally, you can run MCP services on your own machines that connect out as the gateway, as well as the external ones. Whereas if you do them in here outside, it's trickier. So I would recommend using localized tools. So I run Perplexity, OpenAI, and Claude all as local, and Gemini all as localized. No, not Gemini. All as localized tools as well. Cool. So, John, I hope that was a little bit of interest. If you've got 2 more minutes, I'll just show you one other little tricky thing. I don't know if that's all right. Literally take me 2 minutes.
All right, so you got to be quick. I'm at time. Let's go.
Super quick. I'll just share one more screen with you, and that's this one. Okay. I've been really getting into Chrome extensions. So one of the things that's kind of cool. Let me go. This is a Chrome extension I did just because I'm starting to think about how I present things and how I make videos. So one of the things I've done here is built this little Chrome extension. So I'm saying, write short speech to onboard clients to my digital transformation. I should actually use business. and it's off writing that stuff. And I've built this little Chrome extension here, which is just this thing here.
Yeah.
Come on, hope it's not too long. That'll do.
Mm.
Get an idea. So I can grab that copy there, drop it into here, and I can then say, let me I've built some simple ones. So let's say you can put any sort of some instructions here, but I've pre-written a number of theirs. So let's just use this direct style, and I'll use ally and say submit. So while it's doing that now, it's just going out to an audio API in the background. So I'm using the OpenAI one in this particular case. And then what it's also doing is recording that and making a copy of that and putting it into my Google Drive. And so it's just uploading it to Google Drive now. And then it's also added it into my into ClickUp. So I've created a new ClickUp task, and I can also download that audio file. And why is that not?
The green button.
I can download it here, but I can also, it should have been, it didn't load the player here. I wanted to play it for everyone, but because the voices are quite good. And what's really interesting with the OpenAI one is these instructions here. These systems instructions make significantly difference on how it's presented. Do you want it upbeat, downbeat, all that?
Yeah.
You don't have to go through. It's not quite Tool Labs' quality, but it is exceptionally good. Let me just do that. I'll just run that one more time. Probably need to just reload it. So it normally just gives me a player in here to play that, and super useful because you can grab bits and pieces. I've really been training my Claude to write better copy, so I've even got it writing stories, etc. No, there's definitely a problem with it. It should show before that. Let me just try something. Right. Yeah, there it is. Sorry, I just dragged it down not to play it. I don't know. Can you hear that?
I can't hear anything. No.
I've got it in my head. I've got it in my head speakers, so I'd have to switch the speakers.
You might have to share audio with your screen share. Maybe that could.
No, let me just.
No, okay.
I could definitely. I might be able to use system share. Could use. Let me try. I'll quickly do. Try this.
Really got to go. All right, here we go. I want to hear this.
No, it's for some reason it's playing it back in my headset, so I'll have to check on that. But next time I'll show you. Next time I know you've got to run now, so we'll work out what that situation is and sort it from there. But super useful. I can show you some of the things I'm doing in terms of workflows. So I'm dropping that into my video editing tool to make some stuff, and I'm building up so I can actually start releasing quantum of stuff. But and it's the same situation I talked about the coding. It's easy to produce lots of rubbish. The issue is how do you actually have that productivity and still remain the quality? And in closing, I suppose to underline that, there was medical journals are now been complaining that they're now getting inundated with submissions for medical reports, which are absolute shit. So doctors and trying to publish or perish by getting AI to generate crap output. So some of that shit was shit before. It's now just more prolific shit. So I really think what we want to do in this podcast is, make things easier so it's not the tools. We reduce the friction of using these new tools. So the human in the middle and the human at the front, importantly, is actually making sure that what comes out at the end is spectacular at a much lower investment in time and effort, but it doesn't get away. If you're going to be
ultimately you're responsible. You put it out.
Absolutely, and it does mean you have to actually be a critique, edit the shit you're doing, all that stuff. So, John,
Yep.
you've got
All right, I
literally
gotta go.
You got to go. We're to go. We'll see you next week. We'll cut out again, and
See you next week.
I'll have something for it in today. We can give me some feedback on the weekend, and I'll probably publish maybe publish tomorrow instead of today. We'll see how we go.
Love it. All right.
Ciao, everyone. Hopefully, come next week.
Hey, see you later, everybody.
Get better. Hey, what's it doing? Okay.
Okay, I gotta hit hang up. See ya.
Bye.